Hi there, Catherine Wiseman here, and I have had a recent really good revelation about growth and how we grow in our lives. I have written this out as a blog post, but it is a bit of a post to read. So if you're not a reader and you'd rather listen, then I'd love to take a moment to share this with you. If you don't mind, I'm going to be reading it off my screen because I don't want to miss anything. And I really hope that this blog post blesses you. So here we go. I've called this Fabulous News About Your Growth. You see, growth is one of our 6 basic human needs. Whether it's personal, spiritual, educational, fitness, physical, we all need to grow. And if you're not growing in at least some area of your life, you're going to feel stagnant, you're going to feel bored and possibly frustrated. So growth is the reason we actually set goals, we find hobbies, we sign up to workshops and courses, we have adventures and achievements that we set for ourselves. Growth is something we do with intention. We decide on an area to grow, or maybe a few areas, and we purposefully go out planning, goal setting, forming habits, maybe even connecting with other like-minded people who have similar goals set. And the list goes on. And so if you're a proactive and productive and intentional person like I am, you're a doer. And doers like doing, and they gain a sense of achievement, growth, productivity and sufficiency out of their doing. And this can be a good thing, right? Well, it can be good until it's not so good anymore. And how this becomes a problem for us is when we ignore the principles of growth and we lose balance and perspective, and our growth becomes an addiction. When growth becomes the way that we measure and find our significance, then we know there is a problem. That's when growth turns into striving. And when we feel like we're not growing, we have this sense of anxiety and stress and guilt building up. And how do I know this? I know this because this happened to me recently. I've been so focused on growing my business with my plans and my goals, on managing our home, on being a great parent and a good wife, on growing spiritually and forming the regular habits of spending quiet time with God and in His Word. And then I left to go on a 3-week holiday, and all my doing went out the window. All my growing felt like it had suddenly come to a stop, and it had withered, and I felt like I was even backsliding. And with this came a whole lot of guilt and anxiety. I woke up one morning about halfway through my holiday and could no longer ignore the anxious, guilty knot that was building in my gut. What is this about? I wondered. I couldn't work it out. So I convinced myself that this anxious feeling was the normal part and parcel of being in your own business while being away on holiday. Because didn't someone say that you can never really have holidays once you start running your own business? Oh well. So I spent the remainder of my 3-week holiday trying to ignore the normal guilt and anxiety and that it would not go away so long as I was still on holiday. I actually returned from this holiday only last week and discovered that I was in a bit of an anxious mess. Did I mention to you that I was only home for 10 days? And so actually this week I'm leaving again for another 2-week holiday. This all has been way too much for a doer like me. There is so much guilt and anxiety around taking 2 holidays so close back to back while having a business to run. I won't go into the detail of how these holidays worked out like this, but I myself did choose to go on both the holidays because I know that I have significant loved ones that I want to connect with on these trips, and that these people are way more important to me than the day-to-day running of my business. So I did the one thing that I always know to do when I feel like I'm overwhelmed with guilt, and I took it to God, and I said to God, is it possible to put all my doing and growing aside and to go away on holiday without guilt, stress and anxiety? And true to God, in a number of separate instances over the last 3 days, He has woven together an amazing answer for me. And once again, I've been blessed with the insight of a new revelation through these 3 events. So I'm going to share them now with you briefly. The first one was I climbed into my car and switched on my media to listen to a Joyce Meyer CD that I have. And the topic of the month was the law of gradual growth. It was a whole hour teaching, but right in the beginning, she started off with how the Bible speaks of a seed time and a harvest time. And she says how God has revealed to her that yes, there is a seed time, but it's almost like these 2 words should have been separated. There's a time to plant seed, then there's a period of time, and then there'll be harvest time. There is a period of time that we need to wait after we planted seed. So this little nugget somehow sort of sat inside and got me pondering, and the thought came to mind, could it be that before my holiday, while I'm in all my doing mode, that I'm planting seed? And yet while I'm away on holiday, I was letting that seed have time to grow, and that actually later I can still see a harvest. So this got me thinking that what if my holiday was not actually wasted time, but time left for seed to grow? Then secondly, God reminded me about what we experienced when we arrived home on our holiday. So after unpacking the car and making that gorgeous cup of tea that you always make when you're first back home, my husband and I ventured outside into the backyard to soak up the last suns of rays and plan for our week ahead. We stepped out the back door and literally stopped in our tracks, because in only 3 short winter weeks, the garden had grown so much. There was a full load of ripe tomatoes to pick, and the grass had grown over ankle deep. God reminded me then and there that all this growing had definitely happened while I was away on holiday and had nothing to do with me. The third thing that happened was I dusted off my Bible because, no, I didn't take my Bible with me on holiday, and I was led to Mark 4, verse 26 to 28, and I'm reading out of the Passion Translation. Jesus told them this parable. God's kingdom realm is like someone spreading seed on the ground. He goes to bed and gets up, day after day, and the seed sprouts and grows tall, though he knows not how. All by itself it sprouts, and the soil produces a crop. First the green stem, then the head on the stalk, and then the fully developed grain in the head. Okay, I was finally slowly getting it. God was showing me that yes, I do have a role to play, and my role is to plant seed, to sow, to tender, to weed, sometimes to water. Sometimes the Holy Spirit waters the seed. But then after the seed is planted, I need to let go and let God, because God has some growing that only He can do. He was showing me that my growth is not all my own doing after all. And yes, it's okay to stop doing. It's okay to walk away from the doing, to take rest, to take a holiday. In fact, it's needed so that the seed can grow. So when I looked closer, I was amazed to see also that my business had in fact grown while I was away. God was teaching me to trust Him, to hand everything over to Him, to rely on Him, because He can do so much more than I can on my own. Yes, I have a part to play, but God has a way bigger part than He's playing also. So He gently and kindly whispered these words to me. My daughter, yes, go on holiday and leave these things to me. Do you trust me? Remember, there's stuff that only I can do. I have great plans for you, and they'll be here when you get back, only a little further grown than when you left. Wow. So I'm really delighted and excited to say yes, I'm about to start packing my bags again for another holiday, but this time round I am leaving anxiety and stress and guilt at the front door. They are not coming with me on this trip. I pray that this revelation will bless you too, and I'd love to hear your response. So click reply to this email by all means and let me know how this has blessed you. Have a great day. Cheers.